Welcome to Fancast Friday, ladies and gents. And it's been a while since we've done a reverse fan casting instead of having a person cast as character. Well, not a reverse fan, but like a different fan casting in terms of. I fucked that up. It's fine. We're good. We're gonna have a director this time. It's been a while since but it's to be fair, it has been a while since we've had a director. So there's that as well. But I am your host, John. Nice to see you. But we are doing Edgar Wright based off of the news that Edgar Wright would be open to doing maybe a DCU film down the road, maybe when he's over like his slump of like being against superhero movies because of what happened with Marvel. So guys, let's treat Edgar Wright better than the shit fucks down the street and really give him a place to shine properly that Marvel could not give him, and warranted one of the worst sub franchises in the entire MCU. But until that point, let's introduce Dan first. Dan, how you doing? You doing well? Are you excited to talk about these picks about Edgar Wright? Because I mean, who doesn't love Edgar Wright? Like, I would hate to meet that person. You know, Cornetto trilogy alone.
Yeah. I love Edgar Wright. I think he's a great director, and I've been enjoying his movies all the way back since Hot Fuzz, and I think if he lived in the world where he directed an Ant-Man movie, it would have been a very different Ant-Man movie. I like the first Ant-Man movie from Peyton Reed. I would very much love to see what Edgar Wright could have done with that franchise, but hey, like you said, John, he talked about it recently. I mean, we talked about it a couple of days ago on the show that
yes,
he'd be open to working. These are his own words. He'd be open to working in James Gunn's DCU if it was for the right character. He wants to do something that's unique, that allows him to do an original take. He talked about how he really admires Sam Raimi and what he was able to do with Spider-Man because there wasn't really a template there. What Christopher Nolan did to kind of reinvent Batman after the franchise was kind of at that knell and on the shelf since 1997's Batman and Robin. He also talked about Christopher Reeve's Superman and what Richard Donner was able to do with that. So he's a fan of truly unique and maybe even just very first live action interpretations of superheroes, which I think serves as a bit of a guide for what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to get into that. Hello to everybody in the chat. We got Honka Honka. Caleb is here. Of course, Enterprising was here, the first one in the chat. Stacy's here. Acres of Movies. All right. Of course. And then Ron is here. Edgar Wright Flash movie would be the best fit. We'll get into that. Don't you worry. We'll definitely get into that. We're saving also. The way the show works, we have 5 picks, and then we have a few honorable mentions, and then we'll go over your picks. So if you have a pick, either get in the comments down below if you're watching after we're live, or drop them in the live chat, and we'll go through them after we go through our picks. And then if you're, watching after we're live and you're dropping them in the comments down below, the movies that you like to see Edgar Wright direct in the DCU, we'll bring those in for the Q&A session on DCU Daily that we do at the end of every week. Until then, John, let's get into it. Let's talk about how we got here, because there was a poll that was put up on the channel on the community post section on YouTube where you guys voted for this to be the topic of the show today. So let's talk about that.
Yes, so there was 4 picks. Now, Adria Arjona was the one that was from last week, but she got, ripped to shreds by Edgar Wright. Next James Bond was another one.
Is that a tie?
There is a tie
for second
now.
place. Okay, all right.
We'll see if that, stays there. So maybe we'll bring 2 of them back. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But, but Edgar Wright fucking destroyed the competition. Not even close. People want to see Edgar Wright, and we wanted to see Edgar Wright. I'm happy this one made it out alive because this is the one I wanted to see. So, as you could see, I mean, my vote was for that. I do give a vote for what I want to see, but there's still 50 other people out of at least 25 of those were for Edgar Wright. So there's that as well.
There you go. By popular demand.
Very much so. But I mean, I mean, you guys are giving us so many suggestions already. Some right, some wrong. Well, in terms of this, I mean, all of them I think are right. There's so many great things that Edgar Wright could do for a DCU film. So let's just jump right into it. And the first thing somebody already recommended, which was Acres of Movies, and that was Swamp Thing. So Swamp Thing is one of the few on here that's actually like confirmed. He has done, like, now with Swamp Thing, I can imagine what they would do is he has done stylistic horror in the past, like he did Last Night in Soto, which was very much like Suspiria vibes, or a different kind, like what Italian horror is called, giallo. Suspiria is not a giallo. A lot of people make that mistake, but it is not. Where it's like this very like stylistic horror movie, and that's what he like kind of tried to do with Last Night in Soho. Didn't execute it all that well, but like the ideas were there, and I feel like with a better script and better ideas, he could have executed those properly. He is a huge horror fan, as was shown in Shaun of the Dead, which was a horror comedy. That was like his first major, it wasn't his first movie, it was his first major movie that made him get like some kind of attention. And I feel like he would respect the source material because he does kind of fit that vibe a bit. And James Mangold, the person in question, he does kind of seem halfway out the door because of like all these other studios he's working with. Like he's working with Paramount, he's working with Disney. It seems like he's not really like, if we thought Andy Muschietti was bad, no, James Mangold's way worse. He's just like, he's fucking everybody outside of like Warner Brothers and DC. It's just like he's James Mangold's a whore right now. He's like going to everybody else except Warner Brothers. So there's that. So I think that's a lot going towards it. This is the only one that's official, quote unquote, in terms of the initial announcement made back in 2023. So I think there is a lot going for that. However, despite Mangold still like going off and just taking the dick from David Ellison and Bob Iger, he still is working. He's still technically attached to the movie. He's still writing and directing the movie. Whether that's actually going to happen anytime soon or at all, we don't know. But he still is attached. So there is that. So, and maybe like horror, he tried horror and is like, you know what, that's not for me. I don't think I'm gonna stick with horror again. So maybe he wants to stick with what he knows, which is like eccentric comedies. And with all of that, maybe he wants to forge his own path. And what I mean by that, do something that wasn't already announced, essentially. Because maybe he's like, okay, I don't want to be like a higher job, I don't want to be like, oh, okay, this guy left, so now you're just hiring me to do this. No, I want to do what I want to do. And I can see that those are all very plausible reasons for Edgar Wright to not do Swamp Thing, but I think there is good enough reason. And with that, I think if I had to go down our trusty likelihood meter, we definitely need to make a graphic for that sometime soon. But if we do have to, if I have to say, I would say it's a nice. I think that's a 7. I think that's a good enough reason. And the thing is, there are some reservations about that. Why it's not perfect. However, I do think there is enough good stuff there that Edgar Wright would be a good choice, and he would want to do it. Yeah, but the difference is Tim Burton. Batman was like his third movie at that point. He only had Pee Wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice at that point. And like some short films. Edgar Wright is very, very established. He has the clout to be like, no, I don't want to fucking do Swamp Thing because you already had that in mind. I want to do a movie that I want to do with an IP I want to like execute. So that's why I'm, kind of unsure. I think it's good enough in terms of the pros, like him doing it and him executing it well, but the reservations of like, would he want to do something that's already been announced instead of doing something he wants to do?
Yeah. And again, just to kind of provide context of what the likelihood meter says, 1 would be the least likely, 10 would be like pretty much a lock, and it's more just about talking about what is actually possible. Like how likely is it that James Gunn and Peter Safran would go hire Edgar Wright to direct Swamp Thing? So 7 out of 10 is pretty high up on that list. And honestly, while James Gunn doesn't seem to be in a hurry to bring Swamp Thing to the big screen, if Edgar Wright wanted to do it, I mean, this would certainly fit his forte, if anything. And if he has a banger of a story and James Mangold's like, sure, why not? I didn't figure anything out myself, so you might as well take a shot at it. Then yeah, I think it could work out really well. Like you said, James Mangold is plenty busy with Star Wars and whatever he's gonna be doing for Paramount, so he's got other things going on.
Yeah.
Not saying Edgar Wright doesn't, but I'm sure like Swamp
Maybe
Thing would
maybe
be an
the
option.
7 was a bit high. It's just like I think he has a lot going for it in terms of that
Yeah,
likelihood. But it wouldn't
yeah,
be maybe like more of like a maybe more of a I'd buy that for $1. Maybe more of like a 6.
yeah.
But I think
Fair
it's
enough.
it's I think it's more than even odds or even a 4. But in terms of who we have next that he could handle, that's Plastic Man. And boom, guys, we got something. We got a bulge right there. We got to believe in the bulge, baby. Perfect. Look at that. Look at that butte right there. Anyway, but in terms of Plastic Man, it fits with his style. The character is very zany and eccentric and silly and goofy. It would lean into more what he's done with like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where it's like this overly like
I mean,
Edgar
damn, there's some
Wright to
fire in those
11.
loins.
Yeah,
That's good.
so with that, it would probably and he the thing is, at Running Man was a pretty big budgeted movie, so this would probably go for smaller budget, even with all the CGI and his, his actual
I have a
powers.
question. I have a question. Does the bulge also stretch?
I would assume so because there is now it's not for Plastic Man. It was for Mr. Fantastic, where it was Mr. Fantastic was like getting out of bed and you saw Susan or
Mm-hmm.
Sue Storm in
Mm-hmm.
bed, like, "Ah," like remind me that your powers are amazing or something like that. But you could tell that he filled everything. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
no, Glenn Powell isn't that. He's not that funny. He's too cool and handsome to be You
Mm.
need to pick like a dork for Plastic Man. So and
You
with
know
this
what? Chris
Plastic
Chris
Man,
Pratt could do it.
I mean I could see it, but he's
I
too
could see
big
it.
for me.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Maybe too broad.
So,
Yeah,
but with
sure.
all of this, Plastic Man is noticed in the pantheon of DC right now
Mm-hmm.
because it was Rainn Wilson, but somebody already recommended doing a movie, so it's noticed in the eyes of
Mm-hmm.
James Gunn. But the thing is, Rainn Wilson might not want Edgar Wright for the project if they go with that pitch. I don't think they will, because even though Rainn Wilson worked with James Gunn a bunch of times, I don't think he would go with him because I just think Rainn Wilson is just way too old for the role. Like maybe if it was like at the height of like The Office fame, maybe, but even then, I think Rainn Wilson is just he's not goofy enough. He's too deadpan. He's too the like he works as a straight man. Like that's what he's good at. He's stoic and deadpan, and that's where his
Like
comedy
Dwight
comes from.
Schrute.
And I'm not just talking about Dwight Schrute, but other comedies. Maybe he was a little bit goofier in Super, but even then, I feel like he works as more the straight man than the goofy guy that Plastic Man is. Um, um, I mean, I think Ben Schwartz would be a great Plastic Man, but I don't think he would be the best Plastic Man. I don't think so. Like if they cast this like we're doing a Plastic Man movie tomorrow and they're like Ben Schwartz as Plastic Man, I would not complain. I think like that would be a great choice. I think he would be amazing for it. However, I don't think he would be the best. However, I am keeping that in here until you guys vote for a Plastic Man movie. But that's we're into until we do a
We've
Plastic
tried.
Man fan cast. I'm not
We've tried.
doing that.
I forget who it
Um,
lost to, but it was one of the options a few weeks ago, I think. So yeah.
yes. But the thing is, and it might be too special effects heavy, maybe like with such a weird character, and James Gunn being like, let's not do weirder
I
characters.
mean,
It might be too special effects heavy,
look,
hence,
it's
it might be too much.
I know it wasn't Plastic Man, but they had what was it? What was it? It was Elongated Man that they had in the Flash.
Yeah.
So and Mr. Fantastic, It's one of those VFX that's a little bit easier to pull off. It's just making it look realistically good, which is what the Fantastic Four struggled with for a long time, without making it look goofy. Like it's well, I mean, but the DCU is a little more removed from like the grounded reality that the MCU tries to emulate, whatever that means. Aliens and all. But yeah, I mean, Plastic Man could fit right in the current DCU, and we know
Yeah.
James Gunn loves the character, so I wouldn't
So
mind seeing it.
so if I would say Swamp Thing is maybe like a 5.5 or a 6 now, because y'all made some good arguments against that. But I would say this one is definitely nice. I think Plastic Man would be good for him. I think like he has enough going for it that it would be better than Swamp Thing, and I would really like that.
But let me ask you
You
this
know,
though, like why specifically? Because I know you talked about it a little bit, but why specifically Edgar Wright? Like, what about his
because I
filmmaking
think he
style
could
really
give
fits
a
it well?
unique vision to the character that like this has been they've been trying to make this for years. Like they've been trying to make this since the 90s, and I feel like Edgar Wright like he's done very goofy out there characters like Scott Pilgrim. He's done special effects heavy stuff like with Running Man. And then he's also done like but he also knows to do it in like a grounded world. Like he has
Mm-hmm.
like this over the top style but is also very grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's perfect for a superhero comic book world. And I think Plastic Man would work because it's like he's essentially like this real life criminal, but then he gets gifted these. It's like essentially he's real. He's just
Mm-hmm.
like a henchman for like a random criminal in the comics. I think it was actually I think Brave and the Bold did it first, where he was like a henchman of Kite Man, and then I think they integrated that into the comics, and then he is bestowed these powers. He gets thrown into a vat of something. He gets gifted these powers, and then he becomes like this eccentric, weird, zany character, more so than he already was. And I feel like Edgar Wright is one of those few directors that can transition from that realistic from that like realistic world, that like the grounded world, something more like Gotham, I guess, where it's like more gritty and realistic. And then Edgar Wright can also make that zaniness flourish very well with a unique vision that people would remember, like Sam Raimi with Spider-Man, essentially, or Tim Burton with Batman. Like
Right.
the reason that those movies are remembered more than the later films, or like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, is because there was a unique vision behind them. Like I might not love the Burton movies as much as like Batman Forever, but Batman and Batman Returns had a more unique vision and style to
Yeah.
them
Well, I think it's more
than
like talking about autoristic directors.
yes.
It's like their authorship over those movies. Like you could watch Batman 1989 and be like, that's a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't a Batman movie, you would be able to tell it was still a Tim Burton movie. So I
Like the
see what you
man,
mean.
like part of the reason why Hot Fuzz works is because of the eccentric style in that realistic world. Like because there were so few action scenes, like he has all these like quick cuts, and like make it like signing a piece of paper. He makes the most interesting thing in the world, and that's what like kind of works about that. And I think that would work for something like Plastic Man. So
Yeah. No, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I think it would be a good idea. Yeah. I think it would be a
yeah.
lot of fun.
And then the next one I have was probably it would be it's the Flash. Like he's perfect. He's perfect. Give me a fucking Edgar Wright directed fucking Flash movie. The fact that we haven't gotten this shows we're in the worst timeline. It shows us that Ezra Miller went back in time and fucked us all over. Not him as the Flash, just him as Ezra Miller, because Ezra Miller sucks. So he went back in time and fucked all this over so we couldn't get an Edgar Wright directed. Like the fact that we got the guy who did it to do a live action Flash movie shows that we're in the worst timeline. Like it's just not fair. Like, yes, let's go to the guy who did Demon vomiting at a person to Angel in the Morning Let's get that guy to do a Flash movie instead of the most perfect man to do a Flash movie. It's like, what what the fuck? So it fits his style absolutely perfectly. Like, again, I have said it would be absolutely perfect. I can't imagine it would not be the best Flash movie ever. And then he did a movie recently involving running called The Running Man. And then it's a popular fan cast for Edgar Wright to direct. Like the most consistent thing I see of like what should Edgar Wright do in the DCU? Flash, the Flash. Again, the eccentric style mixed in with the grounded reality is perfect because it's just like, again, similar to Plastic Man. He's a regular guy, bestowed the. It's not like Superman where he's already like grandiose because he's an alien with all these amazing powers, but the Flash is just a regular guy. He gets, thrown into chemicals, struck by lightning, and now he has these powers. So boom, that. And then he has like that high, like frantic editing style. I mentioned that with Hot Fuzz. And then he has and then he can do comedy really well. And Wally West is usually pretty funny because I feel like they're going to go with Wally West. Um, the thing is, I think, you know, uh, I wouldn't want Edgar Wright to touch reverse. I would want him to do the Rogues because the Rogues have never been done properly. We got too much of reverse Flash in the show that it kind of tainted the character a bit, at least for me. So, I just think that I just think that that's a bit tainted. However, with that, for Edgar Wright, maybe it's too big of a character for him, too high of a budget. Maybe that's just too much for him to handle. Like, Running Man was about like what 110, 125, I think, like around there. It was not a huge budget, like comparative to like an Avengers movie, but like I feel like The Flash would be more than that. And considering that Andy Muschietti completely and utterly butt fucked the idea of another Flash movie coming out anytime soon, even though he was given the reins of Batman, but whatever. So we're probably not going to get a Flash movie anytime soon. Like, not, at least not within the next like 5-10 years. So, which is sad, but like, God, do I want to fucking see that so badly? Like, I want to see
I do
a
think
Flash movie so badly.
like
Captain
Edgar
Cold could
Wright's
be a good. I want to see the
sensibilities.
entire
Yeah.
Rogues fight the Flash. That would be my dream.
I will say though, like Edgar Wright's sensibilities as a filmmaker would fit a zany Flash movie perfectly. Like you said, what we got from Andy Muschietti, it's like it's almost like,
Babies in microwaves. That's what we got.
well, it's almost like, if Edgar Wright was given the same script, he would have turned it into something iconic, and it just became goofy because maybe, like, while Andy Muschietti said those were intentional choices with the terrible CGI, which they looked underbaked, um, Edgar Wright would have taken him in a different direction, and maybe he would have locked in that creative decision much
Trickster could be
earlier
good.
and
Definitely
could have
Trickster.
and just enhanced a lot of those sensibilities.
And
Like,
Hans?
here's the thing, you might Ezra Miller is not a good person if you go off of like everything, all the allegations and everything that was against him, and he needed help. Hopefully they're getting help, but while Ezra Miller as a person may not be somebody you want to associate with, their performance as the Flash, I think, was amazing. I love the way they portrayed the character, and I think if you gave that performance, at least that color or performance, to somebody like an Edgar Wright to direct, it could have been a really, really good movie. I mean, again, that has to be something where Edgar Wright wants to do it. Um, Also,
Yeah.
going back to the idea, is this going to be the first iteration? No, but I think when you talked about like Christopher Nolan reinventing Batman for the 21st century, and then a few other examples, even like Superman, Richard Donner didn't direct the first Superman theatrical movie, but he directed the one that became the most iconic one,
Yeah.
and the one that became the measuring stick. That Flash movie with Ezra Miller is going to get. I mean, sure, people know about it, are aware of it, make fun of it. It's a cool thing to do, whatever the case might be. But that movie will become less and less relevant in the cultural zeitgeist over time, and
Yeah.
it will take an iconic. I mean, look, it takes only one iconic interpretation that becomes a new definitive
I
version
mean,
of that
within
character
8
to wipe the
years,
slate clean.
Christopher Nolan made us fucking forget
Yeah,
about like Batman Chill.
yeah.
Like it took less than a decade for that man to just make Batman to make Batman what he
Did we forget about
is
it
for the
though? Did we
21st
forget it?
century.
Yeah, but I think
Well,
it's like
what I mean is like he
yeah,
made us forget like how goofy in that
right.
iteration was, you know?
Yeah, but
Like
I think it literally what Edgar Wright was saying himself was this idea that he wants to sort of put his own imprint on a character and
yeah.
do it with a character
He
that
even
hasn't
mentioned
had.
Nolan in that little blurb he was
Yeah.
talking about it because it shows that he might. Because I was trying to aim for characters with this that have not been done in live action or have not been done in live action for like Swamp Thing. Yeah, that movie was from
Yeah.
the 80s. Not a ton of people remember it unless you're a big Wes Craven fan.
Hmm.
So those are the only ones that, or like a really big comic book fan, and you've seen everything. Then those are the people that really remember that Swamp Thing movie.
Yeah.
People didn't even remember that there was a show in the 90s that lasted 3 seasons. So,
It was always a cult classic thing,
yeah,
so
it
it
was
never
always like
quite
so like
rose
that
into the
makes sense or
mainstream.
like
Right.
with the previous like Plastic Man that's been
Yeah.
trying to been done for years. Yeah, he appeared in like a TV show like in the 70s and that nobody remembers, but that's so
Hmm.
different.
Yeah, but I think
Exactly.
ultimately it's that whole idea that Edgar Wright might not be looking necessarily for a big screen virgin superhero in the sense that we have never
Yes.
seen that superhero in live action on the big screen with the super like the big comic book tentpole treatment. But I think what he's looking for is maybe a character that hasn't had a definitive interpretation yet. Like Superman, right? Like anytime somebody makes a Superman movie, they'll always get compared to Richard Donner's Superman. Anytime somebody makes a Batman movie now, it always gets compared to the Dark Knight. And you can look at it with, Spider-Man. Spider-Man has had multiple new iterations, all of them iconic in their own ways, but everybody compares it to Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So Edgar Wright wants a character where we haven't had that kind of a treatment already done for that particular character before. He
Yes.
wants to be able to kind of, put the marker down on that character. And I think with the
Yeah.
Flash, while that movie was funky and goofy and in my opinion at least good, it was definitely not iconic. It was not definitive. And if they can make a better version of it, of one that's more iconic and more definitive,
Yeah.
that's right in the wheelhouse of exactly what Edgar Wright said he wants to do. And so
Yeah. Because
I
yeah,
don't know,
he's
John.
open to the idea of like doing another
Yeah,
iteration, but he needs to do it in like a Christopher Nolan kind of way.
like he wants
So
to, exactly. He doesn't want it to be a character that comes with a lot of that historical baggage, and in a good sense. He
yeah.
doesn't want he doesn't want that kind of smoke, I guess.
And with
But
that,
yeah.
woo baby, that's what I'm talking about. The only reason it's not honestly, it would be like 9-10. It would be between that and
Yeah.
Absolute Cinema because it's so close because it's I could fucking taste it. But the fact that we have that movie that happened so soon, like
Right.
only 2 years ago at this point, it just
Although,
seems not
right.
likely.
Yeah,
That's
although
the
I
only
will
reason.
say this, like any Edgar Wright directed Flash movie is likely not coming out until at least 2028 and more likely probably until a little bit later depending because he probably already has a couple of things lined up already
Yeah,
that he's in the works on. So,
definitely not a
I,
Running Man 2. You're
yeah,
definitely wrong about that, Dan.
unfortunately. But it's also a matter of like they're gonna need a Flash in this new universe. Like you can't have a DCU without the Flash. He's one of the core Justice League characters. So eventually you're gonna need to bring him in, and Edgar Wright, might be the right pick for it. I think he'd be a great pick for it.
I
So
think he would
yeah,
be a great pick. But
yeah,
he would also be a great pick for Animal Man. Company, you already mentioned it in the chat, but I think it would be perfect. He's a perfectly obscure character for Wright to tackle because, like, again, he's so weird. He's again not exactly eccentric or zany, but like again, this is be like the kind of like what Plastic Man is. This would be the first, and he would make this would be the movie. Like if they ever decide to make another Animal Man movie, this would be the one they go back to. Like for a while, Tim Burton's Batman was the one they went back to. So this, I think, they would do for Edgar Wright, and I think Grant Morrison's style and Edgar Wright's style go hand in hand. Both do like very weird, like out there ideas, And even though Grant Morrison wasn't the person to, they weren't, the person behind Animal Man. They didn't create the character, but they made the character iconic. Kind of like how fucking Denny O'Neil made every fucking character he ever worked on iconic. Like Batman, Green Arrow, like Green Lantern, everything Denny O'Neil worked on in the 70s and 80s made those characters. Those versions are the ones we still talk about today. Those are the ones that people remember. And I think Grant Morrison did the same thing for Animal. Animal Man was kind of like this niche, goofy kind of character when he first came out in the 70s. And then Grant Morrison just like made him like, oh no, he's actually more than just this fucking guy who can turn into animals. Right? Like the comic book Manimal, Remember Manimal? If anybody remembers Manimal, I will give you a cookie. Anyway, and it has a mix of darker and lighter elements. Now, I think that would be good. See what you did there. I think what would be good is like, especially if you go along the vibe, don't do the story because we want to know Animal Man before we do this, but like kind of like Last Days of Animal Man. That would be like something really dark, but like also lighter with this kind of like sillier character. And I think Edgar Wright doing like more like darker moments of a guy who maybe quote unquote, because like shapeshifters, like a good thing to do with those kinds of characters is they don't have an identity anymore because they shapeshift into so many people. That's like a good thing to do. So you could do something like that, like he loses his mind, he loses his identity, but it can also like kind of be tongue in cheek. Like he's like this kind of funny character that like nobody treats seriously. Animal Man, he's not Batman. He's not cool like Batman or flies like Superman. Like he's the guy who can turn into a chipmunk, like something like silly. So it's like I feel like Edgar Wright could do that balance very, very well. And like something that's very different from what he's done before, but also aligns into what he has done before with how little he's done it. So, and I think Edgar Wright is open to experimenting. Like ever since the Cornetto trilogy, it feels like he's been making so many like Baby Driver doesn't feel like Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho doesn't feel like Running Man. Running Man doesn't feel like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It feels like different like movies, and it feels like he's expanding. And I feel like Animal Man is just enough like his style that he can do it very well, but also enough for him to experiment as a filmmaker. And I think that's really awesome. And I think he himself would like that as well. So,
Yeah.
but the only cons is that it would be a lot of special effects, like him turning into like different animals. It might be a little bit too special effects heavy, especially if he, because you're not going to be able to get practical animals. You're going to have to like eagerly this shit where you're going to need constant CGI animals.
Right.
And the thing is, Gunn might not be interested in interpreting such character. That's unlikely, but that's still like, I think, because he did say like, oh, we're focusing on more popular characters. So exactly. Um, I mean, I think he did a good job, but remember, he did have Michael Bacall for Running Man, and I think Michael Bacall was probably doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that script. So I do think that Edgar Wright, fucking bring back Simon Pegg. Honestly, like the Cornetto trilogy had the best writing of Edgar Wright's career, so I would say just get back Simon Pegg and say fuck it, just do whatever the fuck he wants, and then Edgar Wright or like Joe Cornish. I would say get Simon Pegg or Joe Cornish back because those were the guys that made um those movies work so well. I think Joe Cornish, yeah, okay, Joe Cornish is still alive. But I think they need to. That's interesting, Caleb. That's interesting. Um, I think I think that's definitely very interesting. So we'll see it. Yeah, sneak Nick Frost in there too. Yeah,
I think this movie could be done on a lower budget as well. Like you don't necessarily. It just depends on how zany you want to make it. And I bet you they can pull this off for less, like $100 million more or less.
maybe
Maybe
like
take a few
80
million.
even
Yeah, because it's not
75
like
to 80.
right. Because it's not like you need to make it 100. There's a difference between a $80 million to $100 million Animal Man movie and $150 to $175 million Animal Man movie in terms of like what you're doing with the story. And given that Edgar Wright isn't necessarily somebody who's like a writer director proper, like I'm not he can write, but would a studio production want him to be like the like that's the thing so if you're gonna bring in a writer with him, and if you wanted to be somebody the profile of a Simon Pegg, obviously he's gonna want to charge more money for that as well. Um, but it's also the thing of like the popularity of the character, like Logan is saying here in the chat. Animal Man probably doesn't deserve $150 million movie treatment, not unless you really have a killer idea and you're like a Chloe Zhao who just won an Oscar and Kevin Feige is willing to give you $150 million dollars, Kate Blanchett with the budget, and just like go do your thing, Oscar winning best director, which Edgar Wright is not. So, and like you said, James Gunn and Peter Safran are they're not penny pinchers, but pretty savvy, that they are pretty savvy with where they're putting their money and resources. Because clearly it's not like David Zaslav has told them, like, go do whatever the hell you want, you have a blank check. They are working within some, financial constraints.
Well, the
And
good thing
so,
about
yeah,
that is that James Gunn and Edgar Wright would make people care about Animal Man. That's what
right.
Edgar Wright was saying when he was talking about like leaving like an impact to a certain character. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, I would come to DC, but for the right IP. And it's like you need to
Mm-hmm.
reinvent a character so that he becomes a household name.
Right.
So the thing is, yeah, no one cares about Animal Man, but at the same time, nobody fucking cared about Aquaman until fucking James Wan and Jason Momoa obliterated everybody, and now he's
$1 billion.
awesome. So like, which was kind of
Aquaman's
ruined with the
cool.
Lost Kingdom, but that's beside the point. Like the only reason that these characters become
The
household names
DCEU
is
was a lost kingdom. Anyway.
but the only reason that these people care about these characters is
Yeah.
like they made you care. They like
Mm-hmm.
with good writing, good
Yeah.
stories, and good direction from whether that's an editor in chief for comics or an actual literal director for movies, they made you care about these characters. They
Right.
made you give a shit. Yeah, but like not on the big screen. Like that was a huge
Yeah.
gamble. Like
Like there's a
whenever it's
big
like these
difference,
new characters.
like the reach of a big Hollywood tentpole production. Blockbuster,
But look
Hollywood
at the fucking
blockbuster is different from
MCU.
like a TV
Look at the
show.
movie that
Yeah.
fucking Edgar Wright almost directed. Ant-Man. Nobody gave a flying fuck about Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then now he's a household name, which was kind of ruined by two shitty sequels, but that's beside the point. But it's just like the whole basis of the MCU, because they didn't have access to the
Right.
characters people gave a shit about, Spider-Man and the X-Men. So they made these characters that nobody really cared about. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. Yeah, people knew them, but not on the level that they do now, where Robert Downey Jr. is like literally the highest paid actor in the fucking world. And
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man is now next to Spider-Man in terms of household name. And then James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody gave a fuck about Guardians of the Galaxy, and their household is Star-Lord and Peter Quill. Household names. The right marketing, the right team, the right writers, the right market, everything. That's what you have to do. Is okay, we're done talking about Aquaman. What about fucking Ant-Man? What about fucking Iron Man? Like, Animal Man's not well known, but let's make him well known. That's the thing.
I agree 100%. Absolutely. And I would just love to see the trailer have the song "Born to Be Wild." It's right there. Like that needs to be in the trailer. Like whenever they make the trailer for the movie,
Or Wild
it's
Thing. I think Wild Thing would be good.
could be another one. I mean, well, one could be a teaser trailer, one could be the main trailer. Could have
Yeah.
definitely work.
So I don't think I did one for this. I would say this is a let him cook.
Hmm.
This is a let him cook. I
So
think
again, you're
not like
looking
the
at this
most
as like
likely, but like
this would be something that because this would be likely something he would pick at this point if you're giving
I
him
would
that high
say
of a
let him
score.
cook or maybe Ooh Baby. That's what I'm talking about. Like
Okay.
maybe leaning more towards 9 because it's so weird. It's so like him, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make my mark with this character.
Yeah. Like nobody, I
And
think unless we're talking about it now, but I don't think many people would peg Edgar Wright for directing an Animal Man movie. Most people will be like, "What is an Animal Man? How is that an actual character?"
the
You know? Yeah.
and Marvel is not an old company. What? They're both from the 30s. The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't
There's a
know.
I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think it's not so much an outdated characters. I think they're timeless
There's so many
characters.
outdated characters that you
Yeah.
can make into like modernizations. Like,
Hmm.
for instance, Gail Simone. I don't really love her as a writer that much, but she took Catman and made this rinky-dink, stupid character from like the '60s and made him interesting. Like stuff like that, and you can do that with plenty of characters. Like so many silly characters
Hmm.
that like for instance, like at least if we're comparing it to comic book to non-comic book, like Batman was considered a silly character because of the Adam West show,
Hmm.
and then Tim Burton came in and redefined that character to the point that most people, maybe probably most of the general, don't want to see a silly Batman ever again. Like you can still do that with like, Brave and the Bold and stuff, the
The
animated
Bat
Brave and the
Fam,
Bold and stuff like
that
that.
animated show Bat Fam on
But
Amazon Prime
like,
right now.
it's
Yeah.
just they are just like, again, what Edgar Wright wants to do, and
Yeah. You could also
I could
introduce
see
him
that.
elsewhere. I mean, that could work too. Like having him introduced somewhere else where Edgar Wright gets to cast the actor and then give him
Or
his own
Verbinski
movie
could be really good.
could work, you know? Yeah. That's
But
such a good
enough
pick.
about Animal Man. We still have one more major guy to talk about, and not just a guy, multiple guys. Justice League
And gals.
International.
And gals. Like
So
it's everybody.
it's everybody. So the thing is with this, we've talked about Justice League International in the past. We've already fan cast some of those characters before Fancast Friday became like its own show. We talked about it on the show a lot, but some characters are already set up or going to be set up. I mean, we already have Guy Gardner. We're gonna have Batman. We're gonna have Blue Beetle, at least a contingent of Blue Beetle. And we're gonna have Mr. Miracle. And it's not too hard for the other characters to show up in other shows, like Martian Manhunter could show up somewhere, like in a Superman sequel. Black Canary could show up if they ever decide to do a Green Arrow movie. Doctor Fate could show up in a other kind of movie. So whatever it is, you have characters that are already set up and then could be set up. I think and with yes, correct. With Guy alive. And it has a strangeness to it that could work for Wright. I think I think the strangeness to it that could work is like, again, a lot of eccentric characters that are so different from like the popular. Yeah, sure, you have Batman in there, but he kind of left after the first few issues. So if you want to not have Batman in there, then you have like Dr. Light and Blue Beetle, and then I think like Fire and Ice came in later, so you can include them. I think exactly, but the thing is, you have Maxwell Lord established as well, so that also helps. So, and it seems like the Justice Gang are kind of like a proto Justice League International, because I mean, you have some characters in there, and I think it could bring about all sorts of styles that Wright could experiment. I mentioned that he likes to experiment with his stuff. So you can make this an action movie, you can make this a comedy movie, you can make this a sci-fi movie, you can make this a horror movie. Like you could do so many things with these characters again, and there's so many different, like Black Canary left and then this character came in, this character left, but then this character, like Justice League International was constantly moving with different characters. So like you could have an entirely separate, like you could have the characters in the photo you see here, and then in the next movie half of those characters are gone and like five other characters are in there. Like you could do
Like
all sorts of different movies with
here's
that, but like
here's how I see this. Like for just to kind of add my 2 cents, I think a Justice League International in the comics could serve as like a stand-in for the Justice League that we all know and love, like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and so on and so forth. But in the DCU, where we will have a Batman, we do have a Batman, we will get to see a Wonder Woman. We already have a Superman. We have lanterns, multiple
there's
lanterns, and
only
we'll.
been one
So
interpretation, and that was due to heavy studio
right,
meddling.
no.
And
But what?
you
Mm,
saying that they've never been popular enough is like wrong, because Justice League was way more popular, and I would say is more popular than the Avengers. Like, just because they have not had a successful movie yet does not mean that be all and end all Justice League is not popular. That's like entirely, that's not even like me being a fan of Justice League. That's like entirely and factually and objectively wrong. That's wrong. Like, you're wrong. You are 100% wrong. Everybody knew the Justice League because not just because of Super Friends, but because of various animated shows, various things. Like, Justice League have been known. Avengers was kind of known, but it wasn't the be all and end all team for Marvel. That was X-Men. Everyone knew X-Men. If we're talking about Justice League versus X-Men, that's a whole nother story. But if we're talking about Justice League versus Avengers, Justice League beats them easily in terms of popularity. It's just Marvel had a better PR team. That's all.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I would also look, the point I was trying to make about Justice League International, in the comics, it could be like a stand-in for the Justice League, different eras and all that stuff too.
Right.
I think in the movies, they need to treat Justice League International either as a precursor to Justice League proper, or, I mean, since Guy Gardner exists concurrent to Superman, for example, I think Justice League International needs to be kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy-esque team of the DCU, where Justice League International could eventually merge into the main Justice League, but also at the same time it could be an offshoot / like their own thing, where you have heroes who are maybe not as popular or as essential to the pantheon of DC characters, like the Justice League characters that we're the usual suspects. Right. And then so you can kind of like interweave them both, because I would love to have the whole, let me ask you this: which master do you serve? What am I supposed to say? Jesus, you're from Earth, like, yeah, you're from Missouri. That's on Earth, dipshit. Like, I want those moments to happen between these sets of characters, between the Justice League International team coming across Justice League.
Like Batman sucker punching Guy Gardner for being a prick. Like, that's the shit I want to see.
Yeah. Like, we start somewhere, then we build up to it. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
I think, exactly. Yeah.
But the thing is, there are some cons with this. Wright hasn't done a lot of ensemble work in terms of very different characters. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead kind of had an ensemble, but that wasn't for the majority of the movie, and it wasn't like very different characters, like a guy dressed in red spandex versus a guy in a golden helmet, that's like entirely not true, but okay. But the thing is, it made money, Guy, and it was acclaimed.
I think it's an oversimplification. I think crossover movies and team up movies are still gonna work as long as they're good movies. Like Avengers Doomsday, everybody wants to see the trailer. That's an Avengers, right? It's in the same category. So
people want to see X-Men too. They want to see the MCU X-Men. So, and the thing is, this might be too big for Wright, and he wants to focus.
But at the same time, like a kooky Justice League, you could look at this. Justice League International could just be a kooky Justice League, and that would be Wright and Edgar Wright's wheelhouse.
Kind of, sort of. It's still about Baby Driver. It's still about Baby. Like, he's the main character. Yeah, there's a lot of supporting characters, a lot of memorable supporting characters, but it's not like to the point of what a Justice League International movie would be.
Also, I think, John, this movie, we need a new Dr. Fate, we need a new Shazam, we need a new Martian Manhunter, and a bunch of other characters. I mean, and this lineup doesn't need to be the same, but we already have a Blue Beetle crossing over from the DCEU into the DCU. Yep. We have a Guy Gardner. So you could build,
I would say the only character you can possibly get rid of is probably Dr. Light, only because her origin is very intrinsic to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yeah, you could change that, but it might be a little bit too complicated. So I would say kick her out and bring in another character. But again, you can't, like Fire and Ice. Like, if you want like diversity, you have a Brazilian character and then a Norwegian character. Boom, there you go. You have some more diversity stuff there.
What? Lesbian superheroes is not as out there as you might think. It's completely possible, absolutely allowable today.
I don't think they're I mean, I think it's some continuities they're lovers, but some continuities they're not. But
and then Shazam, but the first Shazam movie was profitable. The second one, I think they over-indexed on the budget. It was a lame duck movie in a franchise that was dying because they were rebooting. So there was a lot of reasons why the second Shazam movie did not work financially, but the first one did. There's a reason why they greenlit a sequel.
But in terms of this, in terms of Justice League they want to. There's some distance between them, kind of like for the Flash.
Hmm.
He doesn't want like a maybe. I think he just wants to focus on one character. Um, and he
Yeah,
doesn't
this might be a
have.
bit of a reach. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'd buy that for $1. I think it's likely, but not incredibly likely for what they're playing. Because I don't think a Justice League movie, even Justice League International, is on the horizon. Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah.
But let's go back to review our choices that we've done before we
Our
get to our
5
honorable
picks.
mentions.
Yep.
And that is Swamp Thing, more horror Edgar Wright, like Last Night in Soho. Plastic Man, very kooky Edgar Wright, kind of like Scott
Oh, the
Pilgrim versus the
bulge.
World.
Believe in the bulge.
Then you have The Flash, which I feel like would be more along the lines of like Running Man or
Yeah.
World's End.
That one's got a
Um,
bulge too.
then Animal Man, you could go with those like darker elements,
Yeah.
which maybe like Fistful of Fingers or Shaun of the
Hmm.
Dead. And then Justice League International, and it's more ensemble like Baby Driver, or and you could do lots of different genres with this that I think Edgar Wright would like to experiment on. So that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But now let's get into our honorable mentions, and then we will get into your guys's suggestions that you've been in the chat.
There's a
It
lot
is
of them.
Captain Marvel. You are correct. Dan says Shazam because he's a pleb.
What? Okay.
But next are our honorable mentions. And we have Adam. The reason I picked him is like, I mean, he did almost do a shrinking superhero. Why not do it for the DC version, the original? And then the inferior five. If you want to go full blown stupid comedy movie,
They
inferior
look like
five is how you would do it.
Dude, they look
Like
like
just get like
Teletubbies.
5 like stupid, like get like Josh Gad, John Mulaney, like fucking like just get like some of the kookiest motherfuckers out there into this movie. Get like Jenny Slate, and then like just go fucking crazy with it. And it would be in touch with his roots because he had like a lot of weird roots, like he did, like he did Fistful of Fingers, like that kind of thing. Um, I think just Inferior 5 would be so fun. And now Booster Gold, it is a TV project, and they already got the guy. I forget who they have. They do have a showrunner for Booster Gold, but I'm saying if he doesn't want to do big projects, he only wants to like dip his toe, he'll direct a few episodes of Booster Gold. That's like, I don't think he would do that, but he has done a lot of TV in the past. He's directed a lot of TV in the past. I mean, Spaced was also one of his first big hits. So he's not totally against TV, but he hasn't done TV in a while. So I don't think he'd do it. But if he only is like, you know what, I'm not gonna do I'm not gonna do like a visionary thing right now. I'm just gonna like direct an episode. I mean, Frank Darabont like directed some episodes of fucking Stranger Things, like, and he was like the guy who directed fucking Shawshank. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he would put his ego aside for a bit and do something like that.
I think these are great picks.
So
I would love to see I would love to see him involved with Booster Gold, especially look, I think what I would like to see is if they turned the Booster Gold show and parlayed it into a movie. Like if the show was popular enough, then bring in Edgar Wright to do the movie. Um Doing an Atom, I think would be nice too. That would be another low-key out there character that is by no means iconic right now and immediately would draw comparisons to like Ant-Man, aka Iron, or also Iron Man, but it's sort of a different character, and like you said, it kind of like came first. So Edgar Wright could take the character and amplify their unique characteristics and turn them into an iconic iteration, like what he wants to do. He wants to make a movie that feels like it has his imprint, his DNA on it and in it, and then become the iconic interpretation of that character. Booster Gold would be perfect. Adam would be perfect. Inferior 5 would be way out there. But
it
if
would be
Edgar Wright was
so
really
fucking out
passionate,
there, but it
that would
would
be
be
something
so
like
fun.
if he was really passionate about it, like that was like something he always wanted to do and it was a secret like desire of his, and now he's finally like in a position to be able to actualize it.
Guys, there's so
That's
like
how I
guys,
see
you have
it.
been giving us so many like literally, I mean, Caleb, you said it yourself because I'm looking
Yeah.
at suggestions. Like, guys, we could have made this like 50 movies and still barely scratch the surface of the amount of Edgar Wright characters that would
Yeah.
fit Edgar Wright movies that he could do for the DCU. Like, guys, this
Yeah.
is like
Well, also I gotta say, but the point of some of these characters that we're picking is that Edgar Wright will make them a hit with audiences. Now, the Running Man is out there in theaters right now, struggling to make money. So it goes to show you that Edgar Wright doesn't guarantee your movie's success. So you do need to, I think, pick a character that already has a built-in audience. So you can't go completely kooky out there. But if Edgar Wright manages to deliver something so iconic like the Guardians of the Galaxy did for Marvel with James Gunn, which, by the way, again, had the benefit of a very successful MCU. So some of you guys mentioned we need to
I'm
maybe
not
wait a
You're
little
the
bit.
one that's being what the hell.
No,
You're the one that said what the hell inferior 5. Don't yell at
no.
me.
But I'm like, we need to probably like if you're gonna, so basically there's two schools of thought here. You either give Edgar Wright a character that is, oh hi Decol. You either give Edgar Wright a character that is, or like he picks one that is somewhat iconic already, like the Flash, and and Edgar Wright gives us the definitive iteration of that character. Or or he really wants to do some out there super kooky unknown character, but he is directing within the realm of a DCU that has a few more years on its belt and under its belt, and is sort of where the MCU was when the Guardians of the Galaxy were introduced. So you have the momentum of the larger cinematic universe, and then Edgar Wright just adds on top of that with an iconic iteration of a very kooky out there, not very well known character at all, like Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think those are the two ways you can go about this. Either way, we're probably not going to see something anytime soon, but the
Right.
fact that he openly acknowledges that he would want to do that, I gotta imagine James Gunn's gonna at least pick up the phone and make the call and be like, hey,
Let's set up a
so
meeting.
yeah,
So
like let's talk. And speaking of which, we're gonna quick hits our way through like rapid fire through all of your picks because you got so many to get through.
you
But you
guys have
guys
so many
made a
just
lot of
showcase like
picks.
Doom Patrol and Ambush Bug. Absolutely what I was saying about Grant Morrison. Boom, perfect. Ambush Bug would be seen as a Deadpool ripoff, but they can make it work. Flash movie already mentioned. Animal Man already mentioned. Batman maybe with Mr. Freeze as the villain. Maybe I already mentioned Swamp Thing. Green Arrow, I could see it. Not perfect, but I could see it. Might be a little bit too serious for him, but he could probably make it work. Constantine, especially a British influence, that would be really good. Yeah, that could be I think continuing from something else. Yeah, the question. Gotcha. That would be good. Metal Men, absolutely, kind of bring in the Just League International vibes. Human Target, not quite popular enough, I don't think, but could it be good? Yes, but I don't know. Plastic Man, already mentioned it. All of them are right. See what you did there. Spectre, I could see it. Creeper, that would be really fun. That would be. I didn't think of the Creeper. Fuck, I didn't think of the Creeper. Enterprising, that's such a fucking amazing idea. Anyway, as he said, you could recommend most. He would be perfect. Authority, maybe. Freakazoid, not DC, but I like where your mind's at. Animal Man, Ambush Bug, Doom Patrol, Human Target, Green Arrow, what you said before. Firestorm, also really good. Phantom Stranger, maybe. I don't think Phantom Stranger can hold his own movie. He works better in an ensemble, even because he's like, you have to nerf him because he is so fucking powerful. Same with the Spectre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Then I think Dan has to like take a shit because he's moving around his chair a lot. So let's get through this quickly. Martian Manhunter,
I'm
good.
sitting on the ground.
Martian
I'm trying to
Manhunter,
stretch my legs. What are you talking
good.
about?
Hawk and Dove, also good. Yeah, that could be really good. Wonder Twins, no. Bronze Tiger, maybe, but I would prefer a Suicide Squad movie with him. Section 8, I could see it. I could see it. Sword of the Atom, yeah, I've heard of it, but that's like a specific Atom story, so yeah. He co-wrote it. He co-wrote it with Michael Bacall, who also wrote the Jump Street movies. Sergeant Rock, I could see it, especially, that's also on the docket that doesn't have a director anymore. And then Green Arrow and Black Canary. Boom. Perfect. Awesome. Great. Most of these are awesome. It kind of brings in the idea of like, can they work on the big screen? Would they be a hit with audiences? All that stuff. If they are, then do it. I think some of them are not quite in his range in terms of director, even like his experimental stuff that he wants to do. Like I think Human Target would be, and and Phantom Stranger, Human Target, Phantom Stranger, Spectre, I think would be a little bit too out there, especially to do as a movie. Maybe Ambush Bug might be a little bit too out there, but he's a great director, and I think he can, make a lot of these characters work that you suggested. So there's that too.
Yeah, no, I think that, okay, look, I love the picks.
Yeah, it's like we're fan casting. It's not like we're the fucking in the boardroom at DC
no, but
suggesting
like
these to James Gunn.
right, but the idea is that some of these picks are realistic in the sense that they had high scores in the likelihood meter. I think the Flash could be really good. The Plastic Man also could be really good. Those
Robert
two are
Eggers
my
would
favorite
never
picks.
do it. He would never do a superhero movie. I like where your mind's at though.
Well, no,
Angelic,
he's pitched the idea of that Batman Gotham related movie, right? Like that was
no, I
something
think that
Robert
was
Eggers.
just like people are like, "Hey, you should do this," and he's like, "No," but like I would want him to.
Yeah. Well, look, I think look, we don't know that Edgar Wright is going to be directing in the DCU anytime soon. However, the fact that he's talked about wanting to do it says a lot. He has shown just with that one statement alone more of affinity for directing in the new DCU that James Gunn and Peter Safran are leading the charge on.
Mm-hmm.
And then James Mangold and Andy Muschietti, who already have a movie apiece assigned to them that they've been attached to for a while, whether it's Swamp Thing or Batman Brave and the Bold. So, is it likely that Edgar Wright is going to be directing a movie in the DCU anytime soon? I would say it went from a non-zero, maybe 1% chance to more like a 33% chance.
Hey, but 1% chance might have been an absolute certainty. So
Yeah, I mean, still not the point of the line in that movie, but sure.
Justice Gang could be good.
And the fact that, like you talked about, there's so many options. Edgar Wright, you could bring him in and to do a lot of different things. I don't think he's gonna come in to be like a hired uh director for a script that's completely already written. He's gonna want some creative agency with that. He's gonna want to pick some character that he really likes, has a passion for, and has a story in mind for that he can then work with maybe a writer to develop. And James Gunn would probably work with him closely too. So, or maybe just leave him alone, like let him do his thing. I would love to see Edgar. I think at the end of the day, I would love to see Edgar Wright direct a movie in the DCU because it would raise the profile of the cinematic universe. It would also direct, like you said, again, it's not like a one versus the other comparison, but he did almost direct an MCU movie, so he has said that he would like to direct in the DCU. So why not let him do what he wants to do? But ultimately, like every director in demand as he is, they've got multiple projects lined up. So I don't think he's in a rush to direct something for James Gunn and Peter Safran's DCU. There's also some uncertainty around like green lighting, I'm sure, new projects while the company is in the process of being sold potentially. So bringing Edgar Wright in to direct something that he wants to direct with the regime that's there right now, which most likely will stick around even post sale, I have a feeling we're not going to hear much about this for a while, but I do think eventually Edgar Wright ends up directing something for the DCU. It's more possible now than ever before because James Gunn has said he will let a storyteller do what they want to do. Because also we're talking about DCU. It could just be DC Studios. Like it could be Edgar Wright just comes in and directs a Plastic Man movie that has nothing to do with the DCU and it's his own standalone Elseworld story. And it works. And James Gunn is open to that idea. He has said it multiple times. I would love to see that too. Or maybe we get an alternate universe Flash that doesn't connect to the DCU, could be its own standalone thing. Or something like The Authority, but its own thing. I would love to see that. I mean, I would just love to see that. And I think Edgar Wright is such a brilliant creative mind. Why not have him be a part of your cinematic universe? I think the stink of the Running Man's box office is going to take a little while for that to wear off. But Edgar Wright is still a talented filmmaker, and I think the Running Man deserved better than it got at the box office. So
100%.
hopefully there's more to this in the future, and I would love to see him join the ranks of DC. He could be a great director for the DCU or DC Studios in general.
But that's it for now. Let's get into one more thing before we fully move on.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the next group of the next Tier List Tuesday, I should say. Obviously, we haven't posted Fancast Friday yet, but Tier List Tuesday. Let me reset it if there is.
So we do 2 special shows a week, one on Fridays. You got, Fancast Friday.
Fancast Friday, and then
right now.
Tier List Tuesday, which is in a couple days, and it seems like Die Hard. That might be getting it, so that's going to be fun.
Yay, motherfudgers! Because you might be ranking
one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time. But we also have Avengers movies, Santa Claus movies, and Lex Luthor Actors, which was appearing from last week. So whatever you guys want to pick, it's up on the chat now, up on the channel now.
Tuesday.
And it's in the chat as well.
Yeah.
So
go to the community post section on YouTube, and you guys can vote for the poll there for TOS Tuesday.
Good.
the Avengers movies would be like the 4 Avengers movies that have come out so far, so not including the ones that haven't come out.
I just said it's one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time.
By the way, the Santa Claus movies, I specifically mean the Santa Claus franchise, so we're not gonna like mix in it. We could do
all
that
3 of them. That would be the shortest.
No, believe it or not, John, they made a 4th one. It's on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah, the god awful TV show that nobody fucking watched.
Yeah. Anyway,
so it's pretty much like the first one is A tier, the rest are in D tier. That's all you really need to know.
The second one was okay. But yeah, I mean, Die Hard movies. I mean, hey, not all of them will be S tier either. So there's that, and then Lex Luthor Actors is a holdover from the last couple of weeks. Keeps being the bridesmaid, never the groom. So, or the bride. Whatever. I just totally messed up that analogy. I probably destroyed somebody's wedding. That was the equivalent to me saying Rachel. But Rachel. There we go.
Rachel.
I take the Rach. I was referring to Friends.
I know you're referring.
The Rach.
We're talking about DC, so I had to do that one. Yeah. That's true. That is true. I actually do like, because the thing is, Santa Claus 2 came out when I was a kid, so I used to watch that one a lot instead of the first one. So that one I remember more. And
we don't talk about the communist Santa Claus.
Anyway, let's not get into that. But thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Have a good trend, because the next time we will see you, it's officially properly Christmas time, because it's going to be December 1st. So hopefully you guys have a good final days of November, whatever you plan to do. Maybe go see Zootopia, go see Wicked for Good again, go see, I don't know, Sisu 2. Whatever you guys want to watch, let us know. Let us know if you watch anything DC related, and do all the things.
We're gonna jingle your bells this holiday season.
Let's not do that unless it's with consent. But but since it was a DC related show today, we're gonna have our boy James Gunn play us off. But till then, fight for justice. Stay blessed. Have a good weekend. Have a good November. We're going to see you soon.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chorus.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you really I'm doing sublime. I never wait in the stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
And fuck